Hello and welcome, one and all. I am back. It is ICD, or the Dark One, and finally, we are finally done with the early Heisei era, our Phase 1 Heisei, and onto the latter Heisei era content, our Phase 2 Heisei, our Neo-Heisei, whatever you want to call it, and a lot of people have different names for it. So, as if you remember from last time when we talked about All Riders versus Dice Shocker, last time we talked about Kamen Rider outside of the weekly reviews, this is the era in which Kamen Rider content exploded. Before, you'd have one movie per series, but from here on out, we'd get at least two movies, one being a crossover movie with the previous Rider series, a special here or there, as well as later on seasons having crossovers with Super Sentai, known as Movie Wars, or the Tyson movies, or war movies. These are varying in quality and are almost always bad. And I know some people like the Tyson movies. I admit some can be fun, but most are generally pretty bad and do a bad job of balancing the large cast of characters for what's essentially an hour-long special. And that's just my opinion on the Tyson movies here or there. I haven't seen all of them, but most of the ones I've seen are not very good. Okay, so yeah. A lot of content, a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of Kamen Rider. If you're a fan of Kamen Rider, this is pretty much the goldmine era for you. You know, you have the at most 50 episode season and two movies and various specials and maybe even anniversary specials to bring on the show. And with Double's case, you have a freaking anime series that we'll talk about once it's wrapped up, because I want to talk about it when it's wrapped up, because that is a lot. Anyway, let's talk about the series we're actually here to talk about, Kamen Rider Double. So first off, let's talk about the name, Double. If you look at the title, and obviously the poster that I'm using as an image, Kamen Rider Double has a W, but it's pronounced double. Yeah, this is just one of those weird things. It's not really too weird, because I think that it's also done in the US, but yeah, the W is meant to represent double, as you know, the double U, so two U's. If I had the hand tracking thing, you see me moving my hands around right now, but I don't, so you just have to believe I'm holding up the V sign with my two fingers right now. Limitations of finances, people. Anyway, Double as a series is very steeped in detective noir aspects. Our main characters are detectives. Almost every episode is a mystery focusing on the new enemy of the week, and are figuring out the enemy's trick for the heroes to overcome them, which does lead to some pretty fun moments here or there. And as a mystery series, it holds up pretty well. There obviously will be points where you probably guess the mystery before the characters, like any good mystery, and it doesn't do that mystery thing where they keep a secret hidden aspect you don't know about, only for a character to pull it out of their ass and basically solve the mystery right then and there. Basically, as the watcher, you'll know what's going on at the same time as the characters will know what's going on. And they won't pull that. The worst example of this I could think of is a series that probably none of you know about, because of the Danganronpa spinoff. If you know what Killer Killer is, we are cursed with knowledge. Anyway, another part of Double's motif is the suit, and the fact it's a half-half suit. Kamen Rider from here on out will have, honestly, a different number of half-half suits, with various series either having one pop up or the main writer having a half-half suit gimmick for one season or another. In fact, another series, probably one of my favorites, Build, has a half-half suit gimmick, and the current ongoing series, Gates, has a half-half suit gimmick with all of its writers using Desire Driver. Double is the first series to have this half-half suit motif, and honestly speaking, probably one of the ones to have it the most unique, despite it being repeated so many times in the franchise. And the fact that it's a split literally down the middle of the writer, with one side mirroring the other side, but not perfectly, as each half is in fact part of its own main writer suit. As if you look at the fine detailing, there are various differences between the two halves. So, while it looks symmetrical, when you look at the detailing of both suits, it is asymmetrical in such a really cool way. Anyway, as for the main form that you'll see, it is Cyclone Joker, a green and black Kamen Rider, also mimicked in his rather garish green and black bike. Double has various other forms, with one half representing body and the other half representing spirit. This is also changed depending on what form it is. But as for our main writers, we have Hidari Shotaro, or Shotaro Hidari, that Japanese way of saying family name first and English name of saying your personal name first, and his partner Philip, as they're the two that combine into one to become Double. Yes, this is the first series to have two main writers, and the fact that they combine into one full writer. Anyway, Shotaro is an originally apprentice detective who, after an incident, finds himself in the company of Philip, with the pair working to stop the various villains of the series, as well as working to uncover the various mysteries around Philip's past, as he is someone with amnesia. Now, Philip is a strange character, as he is essentially a super genius in a Sherlock sense, and the fact that he has really weird eccentricities. But his eccentricities are born from his limited understanding of the world that has expanded thanks to Shotaro and another character who we'll talk about in a second, his involvement in his life. Basically speaking, as much as the series is about uncovering his past, it's also about him growing as a person. He also has a weird habit of, forming obsessions really randomly and then not stopping at the detriment of himself and others. That pops up throughout the course of the series, and even pops off a plot line in the anime, too. It's kind of a funny thing. So that's it. Also, in terms of powers, Double's probably one of the most versatile writers in terms of a fight, as it can often just switch up the different forms to fight whatever villain is fighting, or get an advantage by switching one half of another half. They're more versatile suits. Personally speaking, O's is the most versatile suit / power set of any Kamen Rider, just because of how many options O's gives you. But Double's up there thanks to how many different forms it can have and abilities it can utilize, thanks to having, even at basic, it's 3 forms. I think about it, Toei hasn't done and added any extra random forms, which is really surprising because it's Toei. Anyway, Double's a pretty tame in comparison to O's when it comes to number of forms, but it's really cool. Anyway, as I said earlier, Shotaro was an apprentice detective under Sokichi Narumi, the former head of the Detective Narumi Agency. The series actually starts off with his daughter showing up to become the owner of the agency, Akiko Narumi, who becomes the head of the agency, but also tries to shut it down at first before eventually going along with Philip and Shotaro running the agency in order to figure out what's going on in the city and stop the Dopants. Now, the Dopants are the main villain faction / kaijin of the series, and the first of a trend of Heisei era content, as they're the first in a long while to just be normal humans, use a transformation item to transform into a monster form instead of just being monsters in and outright. Technically, I think this might be the first one in Kamen Rider. I'm not sure because I haven't seen Showa stuff outside of Black and Black RX, and I can't, off the top of my head, remember any of the Phase 1 Heisei series having this. You could honestly argue Phai's, even though in Phai's case they were monsters who were originally human but turned into monsters, but they didn't use a transformation item. But in Double's case, they use a transformation item. In fact, they use the same item that Double uses, the Gaia memories, although theirs are not purified like Double's are. Anyway, they use a transformation item to become Dopants. And if you look at the name Dopants, it's composed of 2 parts. Doping Mutant. Yeah, Gaia memories in this series are treated like drugs. And the fact that the Gaia memory users are oftentimes addicted to the use of the power that the Gaia memory gives them, and oftentimes act like they're high as fuck. Anime doesn't help this because we also learn the existence of Dopants on this high Dopant. And yeah, high Dopant, high, we get the drug metaphor. It's kind of hilarious. So yeah, but yeah, again, the Gaia memories are USB looking devices that honestly are supposed to represent the memories of the Earth. I don't know if I mentioned this, but you just have to roll with it, and the fact that the Earth itself is a sentient being in Toeiverse. Yeah, I'm not kidding. The Earth itself is sentient. I think this came up in the previous Kamen Rider season. I know it comes up in Sentai at least twice, with the series that became Dino Charge having this as a major plot point that the Earth itself is sentient. But yeah, the planet has a mind, and thankfully it's not the Fate one where it wants to wipe all humanity out, but it split itself into two parts. This one just wants to be chill. Unfortunately, stupid humans figured out what it is, figured out how to extract these memories and create the Gaia memories, and formed a secret organization known as Museum that produces the memories and spread them across Futo along the black market for the sake of, well, their experiment. As I said earlier, these things are really addictive, and they also have detrimental effects if they're used improperly, as you have to have a Gaia memory port when activating it, or else you're going to make yourself sick as fuck, which is something that we see quite often in the series. Hell, even using it properly will make you sick sometimes. Another neat thing about Gaia memories is they all have this representative stylized letter. So there's something such as a W memory or a Z memory and stuff like that. It's a really neat thing and actually becomes important for the movie because they kind of use it as a gimmick for the movie. And as for Museum themselves, well, they're a group led by the Sonozaki family. Specifically, Ryubi Sonozaki, the head of the family, who's wrapped his daughters into the group as generals, and even has the family cat act as an enforcer. Yeah, the family cat is a member of the evil organization and is an active enforcer and rival to our series' secondary writer. I am not kidding you, this is the weirdest shit, and I'm surprised I never did this crap again. Like, I am really surprised that this didn't have a random dog or cat be a major enemy force in a random season. Maybe because this doesn't take off, or maybe they just don't like working with animals. Anyway, Museum has two main goals throughout the series. One is spreading Gaia memories across for the sake of their research, as well as getting Philip back, as he was originally from their group before he was saved by Shotaro and Sokichi, in order to implement Gaia Impact, in order to force all of humanity to evolve. Yeah, as I stated, Philip came from Museum, as we easily find out. Even Philip knows he's from their group, but doesn't have any memories beyond that. And that's also the first scene of the anime that you see when Double first transforms. I think I mentioned our secondary writer a second ago, but I haven't talked about him. So let's talk about him. His name is Riri Turi. I cannot pronounce his name for the life of me. Ryu Teruri. There it is. Like, I know his name, but I always want to say it as Riri Teruri for some reason, and it's stupid. Anyway, he's the most popular character to come out of the show. I'm not even kidding. He is incredibly popular. Ryu is an actual cop, which, damn, it's been a while since we've had an actual cop as a writer. Not since, I want to say, I'm blanking on names here, but the series that came after Kuga. Shit, I'll come back to it. G3. Not since G3 have we had a cop writer, I think. That's kind of funny. Anyway, yeah, so Ryu is a detective, or at least a police detective or police superintendent, and in charge of the paranormal crimes unit, which is honestly the most logical thing I've seen in a Toku work. Of course the police will have to come up with the force to deal with all these random monster attacks. It just makes sense, and I'm happy a series finally acknowledges it, that it's not just something in the shadows, that monsters are attacking people, and the cops are like, okay, we have to create a crime unit to deal with this crap. And that is Ryu's job. Ryu is someone who wants to become a Kamen Rider in order to get revenge for the death of his family, so very Sasuke-ass character shit. But he does grow out of it and become a much better character. Yes, I said that. Basically getting over his grief and working to become a hero of true justice in order to work as a Kamen Rider. As he says, he's someone who wishes to become a Kamen Rider. In fact, the series actually doesn't meditate on what it means to be a Kamen Rider. Some people have said that this series is the reconstruction of what it means to be a Kamen Rider after his death that was caused by I'm terrible at names. That was apparently caused by Dragonite, or, well, not Dragonite, but I will come back to that. Yeah, the series Japanese Dragonite. Ryuki. Why did I forget Ryuki's name? I am terrible. that's in a medicine that Ryuki killed the idea of traditional heroism Kamen Rider. You can argue that to the cows come home if you ask me personally. Personally speaking, yes, I think Ryuki acts as a deconstruction for Kamen Rider, and Double works as a bit of a reconstruction of that terminology, but that's not to say that other series haven't done reconstructions of what it means to be a Kamen Rider anyway. Sort of like how you can argue Ava is a deconstruction of Mecha series and Gurren Lagann is the reconstruction, but that just kind of forgets about all the other Mecha series that existed in between. Although in this case it's literal. But yeah, Double does work as a somewhat reconstruction of the traditional heroism things that Kamen Rider represents. And I have to say, I gotta love that shit. Like, sometimes you don't need an overly complicated story and overly complicated hero-villain dynamic. You can just have what's basically a simple hero-villain dynamic and some fun times with fun characters. Museum are traditional bad guys working for sinister means, even if their ultimate motivations are somewhat tragic, that I honestly won't get into because major plot spoilers, but their origins essentially very tragic, but they've all gone down the wrong path in the sake of amending a tragedy. But our heroes are people who fight for great justice, I say that unironically, and in fact they exist to protect people. As Shotaro says, honestly says this a lot, he loves his city, Futo, and wants to see it smile, as he fights to protect the smiles of the people of Futo. It's honestly a nice sentiment, and what makes Shotaro one of my favorite Kamen Riders. I'm not going to say he is my absolute favorite, that goes to someone else, but his cool sentiment is really good. I didn't talk about Akiko much, because she's very much a side character, but she also has her cool moments. She starts off really, really annoying at the early series, but does grow into being a competent character, and competent addition to the Futo, and to the detective agency. Why did I say Futo Detective Agency? And honestly speaking, it is cool to see her growth as a character throughout the series, especially once it comes to her interactions with the other characters, and, well, how she, at one point, basically lays out one of the main villains of the series, because, well, they're being a bit of a dick. Yeah, I love these cast of characters, in all honesty. They're a fun, great cast, and I honestly am happy to see them appear in any future projects, especially the current ongoing anime. But in terms of the sequel to the series, which, again, we could talk about Toei releases and how the fact they have a sequel to a series you don't have the original series for in America, but I'll leave my bitterness as a Western fan of Kamen Rider aside and just look at the good that we have right now with the anime, and at least thanks to fan subs, we can watch the series. Although Toei also put the first 2 episodes of the series out on their YouTube channel. You can only watch the first 2. We don't get those. I could rant about that all day, but I'm not. I'm not bitter. Yeah, so Double's a great series. Double's often said to be one of the better series to get new people into Kamen Rider. I have to agree that if you're looking for a simple series to get people into the franchise, this works as a pretty good one. It's not the one I started with, because I think another series works better for being an even simpler series. Yeah, trust me. We'll talk about that one in a few seasons. But I think this one also works as a pretty good stepping stone. If I had to say, if I gave this all ranking stuff, then I would definitely place Double near towards the top of the current Kamen Rider series that I've seen, and even future series that I'll talk about, as it just holds up that well despite cheesy CGI, but I kind of expect that when I go on to Toei properties now, so it's not as distracting as you would think. I mean, this distracting in certain fights, but still not as distracting as you would think. So, yeah, that's Kamen Rider Double. Again, good series. I really like it. And that's it. So, time for in-cart stuff. The whole stuff with this. I have books for sale. I have a Kamen Rider inspired series and a Super Sentai inspired series, or more specifically Power Rangers inspired series, and some anime inspired, rather short novella series that I'm working on. You can check out in links below to the Amazon page. And I hope all of you have a good night, or good evening, or good day, or whenever you're watching this, if you made it this far. Thank you for watching. and I will see you all next time. Double has a handful of movies we have to get through, so I'll be talking about the Double movies. Not the Double's return features. I'm debating about those, but not yet. I'm going to go through the main movies first. So yeah, until next time, everybody. Obviously, speaking, those movies won't be up next, but we'll be talking about them. So till next time, everybody.